Are you ready?
It's gonna be a hot girl disco summer. Wait, I'm never doing that again. I apologize. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? Here, let's fix it. Something cool. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy BDE, and this isn't your basic sleeper video. We're in week 9, the final stretch before the playoff push, and this is where every start, every flex decision, every waiver wire stash absolutely matters. These 10 sleeper plays aren't just random dart throws. They're set up to dominate this freaking week, whether it be because of the fact that they're filling in for an injury, defensive injuries to take advantage of, weak defensive matchups, or simply just great positive game scripts that play right into their hands. I have put in over 18 hours of research on this week 9 slate and did all the dirty work for you. In this video, I'll be breaking down why each one of these sleepers is primed to pop in your lineups. Smash a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and lock in because this video will be the difference maker this week if you win or lose. So without further ado, let's get weird. All right, folks, coming in at number 1, we got Mr. Juan Jennings against the New York Giants. He has a fantastic matchup because the Giants defense allows the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers, and everything we talk about is PPR format. They allow a whopping 31.4 fantasy points per game to the position, the 4th most targets per game at 21.5, the 5th most receptions per game to wide receivers at 13.62, and the 2nd most receiving yards at an incredible, alarming 174.25 because their defensive backcourt just absolutely sucks, and there's some injuries to take advantage of. Jennings has also seen pretty spectacular target share in the last 2 weeks in really difficult matchups. He's been averaging 7 targets per game. We just did not see them translate due to playing 2 of the most difficult defenses in football. This week, this all changes. I would not be shocked if Juan Jennings ends up as a top 10 wide receiver in PPR format, especially with a healthy Brock Purdy back in the mix, hyper-focusing him and hyper-targeting him. Coming in at number 2, we got Mini Yoda coming off of a bye and coming off of a 2-week injury against the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys have been giving up the most fantasy points on average to quarterbacks, allowing 25.4 fantasy points per game. They allow the 13th most pass attempts to quarterbacks, 33.38, allowing the 7th most pass completions to quarterback, 22.88, the 2nd most pass yards, averaging 273.12. They allow the most pass touchdowns to quarterbacks, averaging 2.5. The 2nd most rushing yards to quarterbacks, so we also love his rushing floor at 27.5, and the 3rd most yards per pass attempt to quarterbacks as well. This is one of the most advantageous matchups across the board on a weekly basis. You want to constantly take advantage of this Dallas defense. His ceiling this week, and I'm no cap, as the kids would say, 6'7". I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. I'm sorry. Shout out to my guy Hutchinson Brown. Freaking hilarious. But yeah, his ceiling on the week is QB1, and I'm no kizzy. And his floor is top 10. Smash start. You got to start him. You got to love him. Coming in next, we got Zach Ertz versus Seattle. Seattle versus the tight end. They've allowed the 7th most fantasy points, allowing 12.6 fantasy points per game. The 4th most receptions, allowing 6.71. And the 7th most receiving yards, allowing 63.43. And listen, this past week, he just joined a very elite club for tight ends who have surpassed over 800 receptions on their career. It happened this Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs, and things are looking up for the ageless pass catcher because he gets his starting quarterback back in Jaden Daniels. And with Daniels having potentially lingering effects from the hamstring injury, the likelihood of Daniels taking off and running is slim, which opens up more check down opportunity, which translates into volume as a pass catcher, which is all great things. Coming in number 4, this one might get this one might make me lose you from viewing, but I don't care because when he smashes, you guys remember that Disco said it. BDE said it, all right? The next guy is Mr. Bayshell Tootin against Las Vegas, and we'll talk about where Las Vegas is advantageous. They allow the 13th most fantasy points to running backs, 20, allowing the 3rd most rush TDs per game at 1.14 and tied 10th for most receptions to running backs at 4.43. Not only is this a plus matchup on paper, but it's finally time to see the 2024 Liam Cohen and Bucky Irving second half of the season narrative coming to fruition, especially since Jaguars GM James Gladstone has been eyeing Tootin as a day 3 priority target in this past year's rookie draft class during his 2 interviews with the Jaguars. Okay, so yeah, might be a hot take, but I don't care. Coming in at number 5, we got Colston Loveland versus the Cincinnati Bengals defense, and listen, just start your tight ends against the Bengals defense. This is why. They allowed the most points to tight ends, averaging 18.5, the third most receptions, allowing 16.75, allowing the second most receiving yards at 74.25, the most receiving touchdowns. They allow at least 1.25 touchdowns per game, so at least one touchdown. We like him for an anytime touchdown. It's borderline a weekly lock, and they allow the 9th most yards per reception at 11, so we also like him for his longest reception. Translation, always start your tight ends against the Bengals, as I said earlier, and he looked pretty decent with his 5 targets in his previous matchup against the Ravens. Cole Kmet is out with a back injury, so all the snaps and volume should go his way. Coming in at number 6, we are staying with the tight ends, and he plays tonight against the Miami Dolphins. We got Mark Andrews against Miami. Miami allows the 9th most fantasy points to tight ends, 11.6, tied for allowing the 6th most receptions per game to tight ends, 6.25, allowing the 6th most receiving yards per game to tight ends at 63.62, and they allow the 13th most yards per reception per game at 10.48. So we also like him tonight for his longest reception. And by the way, if you guys want to tail us on any of these bets, sign up on Drafters Fantasy. Use promo code DISCO to double your first deposit dollar for dollar. Get in on the pick'em. We're going to be going live tonight and giving our pick'em locks. Your first bet's on the house, and we could 100x your dollars potentially. Once again, if you have any gambling issues, seek help. Yeah, and we like Mark Andrews tonight. We love Mark Andrews tonight because in addition of this being a fantastic matchup, he gets his best friend back in Lamar Jackson. So the high-quality targets, especially in the red zone, are back in plays, and we like Mark Andrews tonight for an anytime touchdown. Coming in at number 7, we got Mr. Aaron Rodgers against the Indianapolis Colts. And the Indianapolis Colts, they have been really good stopping the run, but they have been putrid against the pass. They allowed the 9th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, averaging 18.0 fantasy points per game. The 3rd most pass attempts to quarterbacks, averaging 39.12, allowing the 3rd most pass completions, 25.5. So we like the over on his 21.5 pass completions, allowing the 3rd most pass yards to quarterbacks, averaging 271.62, and they allowed the 8th most passing touchdowns to quarterbacks. They're tied in that department, allowing 1.75. So just around 2 passing touchdowns per game. Not only is this a juicy matchup on paper, but the 50.5 implied point total, the 3rd highest on the week, screams elite passing production. This Indy defense is a funnel against the pass, and they are incredible against the run. Coming in at number 8, and you guys are not going to like this one. I don't care. JJ McCarthy, and listen, guys, I have been the biggest JJ McCarthy hater on the planet. Just putting it out there. But he got a really, really juicy matchup against this Detroit secondary, especially. Detroit against the quarterback, they allowed the 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I'm spitting everywhere. All right, I'm back. I'm a spitter, apparently. The 8th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, allowing 18.8 points per game. The 9th most pass attempts to quarterbacks, averaging 33.86. Allowed the 12th most pass completions to quarterback, allowing 21.43. Allowing the 14th most pass yards to quarterbacks, averaging 232. And the most, they're tied 5th for most pass touchdowns allowed, averaging 2 touchdowns per game in that department. And it's a plus matchup on the ground. And hopefully we get to see a healthy JJ McCarthy unlock his potential as a rusher. And I get that he looked bad the first 2 games he played prior to the injury, but Minnesota's fighting for their playoff lives and NFL relevance in general. Detroit continues to be without key defensive contributors, several of them in their DB room, and this is the first time we get to see JJM with all of his receiving weapons because Jordan Addison was, if you guys don't remember, suspended for the first 3 games. All right, coming in at number 9, we got Mr. Tyrone Tracy versus the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers defense allows the 10th most fantasy points to RBs in PPR format, averaging 20.7 fantasy points. They allow the 9th most rush attempts to RBs, 22.12, wild. They allow the 14th most rush yards per game to RBs, 90.88. But here's where it gets juicy. Jesus, Disco, speak. They tied for allowing the 4th most receptions to running backs at 5.38, well within his wheelhouse. They allow the 11th most receiving yards per game to 34.50. I'm willing to ladder that up to 50. And when starting last year, Tracy was very reliable as a flex option, finishing as a top 24 back in PPR format 7 out of his 9 starts. The 49ers defense is gashed with injuries, and Tracy should pick up where Woody Marks left off last week in the passing game with this incredible game script. Coming in at number 10, guys, and once again, I'm probably going to lose a couple of you guys on this one, but when it smashes, you guys are going to come back and make sure you guys subscribe because I absolutely love this guy. This week, it's Amari DeMarcado versus the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas allows the 4th most fantasy points to running backs, averaging 25. And I know you guys thought it would be Bam Knight, but we're not going to say Bam Knight. I think Bam Knight's a fine start, but this guy's free, right? You don't have to spend a single dollar for him in fab. Single fab dollar on him. They allow the 7th most rushing attempts to running backs, 22.5. Allow the 7th most rush yards per game to RBs, 110.88. But here's where it's juicy for him. They allow the 5th most receptions per game to running backs at 5.12, and the 2nd most receiving yards per game at 51.29. And I understand that this will get a lot of pushback, and I don't care. To add context, Dallas versus running back 2s. Week 8, we just saw RJ Harvey absolutely go for 24.10 fantasy points. Week 7, Chris Rodriguez put up serviceable 7.10 fantasy points. And in week 6, Rico Dowdle, and I know that he was, the starting running back that week, but essentially he fits in the context of an RB2 because Chuba is the starter when he's there. He put up 33.90 fantasy points per game. The list goes on, and the commonality is they give up explosive pass catching plays to pass catching backs on catching downs. Holy fuck. So yes, all your league mates who blew their fab on Bam Knight because this is one of the best matchups in fantasy football, overlooking the guy who's still completely free in most of your waiver wires currently, who could and should outperform the less explosive back. And Bam Knight has not been explosive whatsoever because the one thing Bam Knight is not, he's not efficient, he's not explosive. And as I alluded to earlier, based off of all the stats, based off all the RB2s, the one commonality, the one thing that you want to take advantage of in this Dallas defense is not just the starting running back, the explosive starting running back. And they just released Michael Carter, so there should be an increase in volume and opportunity there. That's our wrap, by the way, for our Week 9 sleepers. And as always, shout out to our sponsors, Drafters Fantasy. Use promo code DISCO to double your first deposit, dollar for dollar, up to $100. You could do the weekly DFS stuff. You don't have to just do the pick'ems, and you don't have to just bet on football as well. You could pair the football player props, the NFL player props, the WNBA, NBA, the NHL, you could do the MLB, you could pair them all and create a fantastic ticket. And once again, your first bet's on the house. Shout out to Better Vision, another one of our fantastic sponsors, the best place to consolidate and sweat everything fantasy and betting related into one app so you don't have to have 69 apps open. And shout out to Bull Rush, the perfect marriage of fantasy sports and betting. We call it fantasy betting. Shout out to Bull Rush. If you guys do make a deposit there, use promo code TheGuyzFF. And speaking of TheGuyzFF, join the Guys FF Patreon. I've partnered with my business partner, my co-host with the most Mr. Sleez Bomb, and we've created one of the greatest fantasy football advice communities on the planet, where everybody in our community is dominating, and we still have room to grow, and we're still welcoming anybody and everybody. It's very affordable. Tune in live tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for all of your start and sits, or catch us live on Saturday night for your last-minute start and sit advice at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as well. As always, guys, like, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications because shortly I'll be posting our Week 9 Game Script Gods Smash Start video. And until then, time for the best intro or outro in fantasy football. But we definitely have the best intro in fantasy football as well. Hey!